Hi, Pete's fans. Welcome to an episode of For Pete's Sake. We actually have some news. This is our final episode of For Pete's Sake. We have loved bringing you guys Pete's news over the last 2 seasons. Unfortunately, we have run into some commitments with family and school and other stuff that just makes it not possible to cover the team as well as we would like. So we have decided that we are going to take a break from our weekly shows. We may continue to post to the website. We're not quite sure yet, but we are officially going to end the show for now with a recap of the 2024-2025 season. The Peterborough Petes, as you know by now, did not qualify for the playoffs for the second year in a row. We went from being on top of the world, winning that OHL title, and we are officially in our rebuild. So we will discuss how we think that's going. We will discuss some news going forward. Look a little bit ahead to next year. We got some exciting news, including getting the first overall pick and also some decisions to make as far as the roster goes. As you know, age, there's a certain age people can play to in the league, so there's always overage decisions and players graduating. And so we will discuss that as well. I am Josh Reeser, as you know by now. In the seat next to me, my co-host, twin brother, Encyclopedia OHL Knowledge, Matt Reeser. So we are now officially in April. It is April 2nd. And like we said, we are going to go over the year in review. So we will dive in and we will get started. First of all, just a recap of the Pete's record here. They had 9 regulation wins all season. Not a very good recipe for making the playoffs. Then overtime, extra time, they were 3-4, so almost 500. In shootouts, they were exactly 500, 5-5. A little bit of positive here, perhaps, is they played in 28 games that were 1-goal games.
That's the ones they lost.
Those are the ones they lost right there. So that's, maybe with a bounce here or there, some luck, maybe those ones turn around and that could have been a drastically different season. The Peterborough Petes did score the first goal in 26 of the games this season. That is less than half, but that's just a decent amount.
Bad.
Yeah, it's a decent amount. Unfortunately, if you guys remember all the way back to the beginning of the year, I think one of the turning points was right off the bat where this team started out the year with a 15-game losing streak. They were 0-11, 1 and 3. It is hard to get back into the picture when you're starting from so far behind, and that ultimately was too far of a hill to climb. In those 15 games, 6 of them were 1-goal games. 4 of them were 2-goal games. But in the first 7 games, it was 5 shorthanded goals. Was that 5 shorthanded goals for or against? Against. Our power play simply was not powerful, and we could not bust through. Goals against, we had 68 goals against in those games, and our goals for were only 34. So obviously we were getting outscored and outgunned, and that is not a recipe for winning.
No.
In the span of 21 games this year, the Petes gave up a power play goal in 20 of them. 17 games this season, the Petes gave up 2 power play goals. So the penalty kill, a bit streaky. When it was not working, it was not good. And we gave up 15 shorthanded goals this season. It seemed like there was a stretch where we were giving up a shorthanded goal every single game. It's deflating. That's supposed to be where your team at least picks up momentum, if not scores, and oftentimes it just wasn't. I don't know if you want to touch at the power play now, but I thought maybe one of the issues was they tried a system that didn't work where they had shooters kind of around the perimeter, not enough net fronts presence. They continued to go with it, and I thought they maybe needed to adapt
Mm.
to a different strategy, change it up, get some net fronts, score some greasy goals. They were looking for those one-timer passes, and you can see why they have guys with great shots. You can see why that might be a plan, but you need some guys in the face of the goalie. The goalies are going to stop even good shooters if they can see them. So
Yeah.
I thought maybe that. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of standing still on the power play. There wasn't a lot of ton of movement. It was kind of like I said. It looked like a semicircle where they tried to tee up some shooters, and it just wasn't super effective, and oftentimes led to no goals on the power play, very few chances, and sometimes some shorthanded goals against. I don't know what you saw. We kind of diving into special teams first here, but
Yeah.
any thoughts on the power play or penalty kill?
It's just one of those like basic things where if you dump the puck in on a power play, you have to get it.
Yeah.
You get the other team can't just go back and keep shooting it down the ice. And it seemed like too many times this year you had a chance to skate it over the line and get possession,
Yep.
and they would just dump it in the corner, and then the other team would win the battle, and it's down the ice, and you have to skate it all the way back up.
Yeah.
You lose 30 seconds on your power play.
Yep.
It's hard to do. I'm not saying this is an easy league to play in by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but trying to carry that puck in and get possession in the other team's end, certain games it seemed painful to
Mm-hmm.
watch the
Mm-hmm.
power play even try and get over the opposing blue line.
Yeah.
So I think you have to work on your entries on the power play just to get in. And then, I don't know, throw Kaiser a big body in front of the goalie and screen
Absolutely.
him.
I was thinking the same thing. I'd
Like,
love to see Kaiser out
or
front of
just
the
a
net.
big
Like,
body, like him, Addy,
how do you move him?
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
They're all big.
Yeah.
Put one of them in front of the net and say, move me.
Yeah.
And then just, I don't know, I get the fact of putting four forwards on the power play,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're giving up 15 shorthanded goals, four forwards is dangerous
Yep.
because they don't play, and maybe this is me as a defenseman, they don't know the defensive
Yeah.
play as well as a defenseman. And to me,
Yeah.
Matachuk, Cameron, Ula are just as good as any forward on the point on the power play.
Yep. Agreed.
So why not go 2D, feel a little bit safer back there on the back end? But I'm not a coach, and I don't have never coached in the OHL. That's just my thoughts as a fan. Is the
Yeah.
entries and four forwards and one defense when you've given up so many shorthanded goals seems like a recipe for a disaster
Yep.
to me.
Yep. No, I agree. And my point again was you got to change it if it's
Yeah.
not working. I thought they held on a little bit too long to a recipe that wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see it simplified to okay, we're not our design isn't working.
Yeah.
Let's switch it up to traffic in front at the very least. I thought there was times where there was very little traffic.
Yeah.
Let's, like Matt said, simplify. Get the zone, get some shots with traffic, and try and get a dirty one.
Yeah.
Especially once you had guys like Stonehouse and stuff who crashed the net.
Yeah.
So special teams definitely one area. Another trend that we saw here: third period goals. The Petes gave up the most goals this season in the third period, 99 of them. That can't happen. The third period is when you're either trying to lock down a victory if you have the lead, or you're trying to come back if you don't. So that needs to be a period where you win the differential. And there were several games. I remember the one that sticks out to me is against the North Bay Battalion, up 3-0 early, and they ended up losing that game. That was a comeback where they let the other team in it, and they were up 3-0 early. That's a game where you could have been right on the guys
Yeah.
right from the start, got another win, and giving up goals at the wrong time, especially in that third period, is just killer. So
Yeah.
a worrying trend, something they definitely need to work on. And trailing after 2 periods, the Petes only came back to win the game 3 times this year. So how crucial was it for the Petes to be leading after 2 periods? Very crucial. It was almost a death sentence for them when they were trailing after 2. And like we said, you give up the most goals in the third period, then you're likely not going to spur too many comebacks, and might not even hold on to many leads. So definitely some stuff that needs to pick up there.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, why don't you tell us how they did against different team. There are different tiers of teams. How did they do against teams from the top? How did they do against teams from the bottom? And against certain squads this year?
Yeah. So the Pete's actually held their own pretty well against upper echelon teams. I don't remember if you remember that week where they went into Niagara and beat Barrie
Yeah.
in the same week.
Yep.
Um, but the trend that kills you is losing to those bottom teams in each division.
Mm-hmm.
The Western Conference against the bottom four teams, they were 3-5.
Mm-hmm.
They lost some to Guelph. They lost
Owen Sound
Owen
twice.
Sound twice.
Yeah.
I know they're a playoff team, but they were the 8th seed.
Yep.
Just it's not good enough. Unfortunately, North Bay, we had one win in 4 games against them.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to take care of the teams that are kind of that tier.
Mm-hmm.
And Ottawa, we kind of only got the wins near the end of the year.
Yeah.
At those last 2 wins against them. The rest of the year, they were dominating us. And I would say we had an equal squad or better squad than Ottawa.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a weird trend to see, is not taking care of those, not weaker teams, because there's not weaker teams in the OHL, but teams that aren't the upper echelon of the league that year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same trend was in the West. They were 7-10, 1-1. That's against the East. The West was 3-5. Had some really ugly losses against some of the bottom teams in the East, unfortunately. I still think the worst losses of them for this year was the Sioux.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Shut out twice by them.
Yeah. And the Sioux were unloading.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have, they're a playoff team, but they weren't making a run this year.
No.
They were selling off guys. So
Yeah.
that's a team where, despite them being ahead of us in the standings, we could play with that team, and we played them off of that strong week. I remember going in thinking like this is a team that should be very confident. We just beat Barrie.
Yeah.
We just beat Niagara. We're playing the Sioux,
With
and then
bus
we
legs.
go and then we go absolutely lay an egg and get killed. Worst loss of the season.
Yeah.
That was unacceptable, and I think that was almost the beginning of the end, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then they had some highs. They were undefeated against Sarnia and Saginaw. But they lost every matchup against London, which isn't surprising.
Yep.
Windsor, not surprising.
Yep.
Flint,
Yeah.
Erie destroyed us this year for some reason. And the Greyhounds we mentioned, they just had our number.
Yeah.
So there's some teams in there that you shouldn't beat. For me, Erie and the Greyhounds were the 2 teams that just pumped us both times.
Yeah.
Like physically, on the scoreboard, everything.
Yeah.
And when you're playing those teams, especially twice a year, it hurts.
Yeah, you can't leave those points on the
No.
board if you're going to be scratching and clawing for a playoff position.
Yeah.
No,
So
and unfortunately we did.
it happens. You learn from it, hopefully, and move on.
Yeah.
But this year, there was too many of those
Yeah.
to be successful, unfortunately.
Yep.
In terms of at the start of the year and throughout the year, they brought in some guys. So they brought Jenkins in. They brought Stonehouse in at the deadline. They brought Brian in before the deadline. They got some later round picks. They moved out Lefebvre. Stutska actually played a game, if you remember, at the start of the
I
year.
do,
And then
yeah.
They released him.
Yeah.
They traded Valeris and Harley at the start of the year.
Yeah.
2/3, a fourth, a fifth, 2 6 and a ninth. They gave up a lot for what they brought in, but I still think it was worth it. I think Brian and Stonehouse are class acts that kind of showed how to play the right way,
Yeah.
and they needed them.
Yep.
And Jenkin was injured a lot of the year, but that's not his fault. But when he was in there, he played.
Yeah,
way.
Unfortunately he didn't get a lot of time because he was injured for it felt like a majority of the year, but when he did play, he looked solid back there. I would have loved to see what he could bring to the team.
Yeah.
I heard nothing but good things about the kid. Unfortunately, wasn't healthy enough to show it, and it's a shame. We wish him a speedy recovery and solid hockey future wherever he's headed after this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the draft now, or do you want to talk about the overagers and then come back to the draft?
Well, let's go overagers first. Yeah, I just want to say, like, in terms of those moves, I agree. Like, I really like Bryant. He's off to Sacred Heart University with Malie. I think he's a solid player, and I think he's a great guy in the room.
Yeah.
You could see why there was that trade. I was surprised by the Stonehouse move because we were kind of
Out of it?
more. Yeah, the chances of us making the playoffs were very low.
Yeah.
And then I would have loved to see a squeak in because I think he's built for playoff hockey.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's gonna crack the NHL within the next couple of years, but
Yeah.
he wasn't even drafted and he
Yeah.
earned a shot with Edmonton.
Yeah.
He's gonna get everything he deserves because he's just that type of player. Like,
Yeah.
you're playing against him, he pisses you off, but if he's on your team, he's one of the guys that's absolutely going to be loyal,
Yeah.
fight. And I love that he came over and he didn't hold like there was no love
No.
for his old team. He embraced Peterborough.
Yeah.
Peterborough as a crowd embraced him.
Yeah.
And I thought down the stretch there was, even when they were losing, he was consistently a guy that you could look at that played strong,
Yeah.
played hard. He would finish. He was good in shootouts.
Yeah.
So I like that one. Another guy we didn't really bet, like McIntyre played
Yeah.
part of the year. He was released as well. So they did a fair amount of movement for a team that was still kind of discovering itself.
Yeah.
But I think the trades generally, helped the team in the
Yeah.
room,
Paid off.
and so
Yeah.
yeah, I got no issue with those. But yeah, we'll move on to looking ahead next year. Like we said, there's always tough decisions to make. Overage options for next year from within. There's a chance also they look at other teams and bring in some overagers from the outside. But we got my boy Quentin Page. We got Brennan Faulkner. Faulkner, who we just want to highlight, was +4 on the Peats this year for a team that finished dead last. Is he the only player that was
only plus,
positive? I
only
think he was
plus.
the only guy that was plus. So works his tail off. A nice kid. Player you want to root for. We got Martin Matejacek. I would be surprised if he was back. I think he's going to look at other options. I thought he had a really strong year. Matthew Jankin, who could come back as an overager. We'll see. I still feel like I don't quite know what his potential is just because he was injured for so much of the year, unfortunately. I would like to see how he can contribute, but we'll see whether or not he's back. And then Zach Bowen in goal, who he was averaging 35.3 shots against this year. There were some games where he was absolutely keeping the team
Yeah.
close, and it would have been blowouts.
How many of those
Without
shots
him,
would you say
so-
were like high quality shots?
Oh,
Like
there was a
21,
lot. Yeah,
22 of
a
them?
lot of 10 bell saves made by
Yeah.
Zach Bowen. He was. I thought for all the issues the Pete's had, I thought their goalkeeping was not one of them this year.
No.
I thought Zach Bowen, Easton Rye,
Johnson when
Johnson
Bowen was injured, those
went-
two did fine.
they did great. Yeah, I thought that was not at all part of the issue. I thought those goalies stepped up, and if we keep that going and then continue to work on our offense, defense, special teams, the other things, I think that can set us up for success.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, it's tough to say. I don't know if we even want to it's not our job to pick the overager options. I love Quentin Page. I would like to see him back with a letter. Faulkner, it's tough because he's been like kind of more of a bottom six guy. So whether they want to go out and find a team that has a log jam of overagers and get a guy that can play up the lineup, I don't know what they're thinking there. I think if Matejek wants to come back, he could be a huge part of your defensive core, but I think he's likely moving on.
There's
Again,
such a log jam on the back end. Which
Yeah.
is the problem. There's so many D now.
yeah, exactly, and yeah, so I don't know. I don't know about Jenkin. Injured this year, maybe he's worth another shot. Zach Bowen's interesting to me. I mean, I think he's a good goalie, but I think Easton Rye showed he's up for the task. I think Mason Johnson showed he's up for the task.
Telling Dylan Lee Stack.
Yeah, Dylan Lee Stacks
Luke
now.
Jelena.
Yeah,
Jelena.
Jelena, exactly, Jelena. So I think they have a logjam of goalies as well. So maybe that's a position of strength. So I don't know what your thoughts are. I would like to see Page back. I think he could be part of the leadership core.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are, but again, it's tricky, and I'm glad I don't have to make these decisions because at the end of the day, they're all good kids.
Yeah.
You feel for them when it's time over, but that's the business of the game,
Yeah.
and it's real tough. So we'll see, what happens. But
Yeah.
yeah, some
Yeah, I
tough
don't
ones
like to
going
make
forward.
judgments on overagers, but I mean, they've given everything they can to the Petes, so
Mm-hmm.
you wish them the best wherever they go.
Yep.
I think Paget and Faulkner play a similar role.
Yep.
They fight for every inch.
Yeah.
Do you want two of those guys back? Do you not?
Mm-hmm.
Bowen has earned every right to come back, but do you trade him for some value because you have Rye and Johnson and Lee Stack and Jelena in the system?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Matejchuk and Jenkins just a number game
Yeah.
because you go to your defense, you already have Cameron coming back, you have Ula, depending on his injury when he'll be back.
Yeah.
Marinetti, you got Lads, you got Strohack.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of Kaiser if he wants to come back. You've got
Yeah.
those guys they called up, Sturgeon, Hartnell,
Absolutely.
Sulug.
Yeah.
Like, you got a lot of D.
Did you already say Gowan?
Gowan.
Yeah.
Like,
I liked what I saw
yeah.
from Gowan this year.
And
yeah.
you want those guys to get big minutes now because it's their second year and they've got to develop, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
they're in a tough spot because they're overagers, and do you want them to play over a younger second or third year defenseman?
Yeah.
Can you win with those defensemen? And that's what you've got to ask yourself as a coach. And they know better than us because they know the guys.
For sure.
Um,
For sure.
but I wouldn't be shocked if they brought in one or two overagers.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't either. It could go either way. It's not like 2 years ago after they won where they had a huge list of
Yeah.
basically all their top six forwards and top D, but there are some players there that could be different makers. Any of them are like good kids, like I said. So, yeah, we could see three of them back. We could see one of them back. We could see none of them back.
Yeah.
It's a really the coaches are going to have to look in the mirror this summer and decide where we are in the rebuild,
And what you want.
what you want, where the direction
Who
of
you're
this team
building
is heading.
against. Who you're building with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So.
So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be exciting. I think if they're going to trade for overagers, I think you're going forwards. They lost a lot of goals with Malie and Stonehouse and Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
So you need some forwards.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
you know,
Well, let's go into a couple of quick stats again here, and then maybe we'll go into looking into the draft a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll
thoughts.
give our shout outs to some players and our overall thoughts.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of go from there. So, rookies this year combined for 31 goals, 45 assists for 76 points. Their second year acquisitions, 34 goals, 45 assists for 79 points. Defensemen had 30 goals and 74 assists for 104 points. And overagers were 45 goals, 45 assists for 90 points. So they were led kind of by their overagers. You could see a lot of decent number of points from defensemen. 104. That's not bad.
The rookies did pretty well.
Yeah, the rookies being so close to the second year players, I think surprised me. I think we kind of had tabbed those second year players, which was, the Aiden Youngs, the Nico Addies, the Carson Camerons, the Caden Taylors, to kind of come in and be that core and take over. And to only have 3 more points than the rookies, I think it was maybe a little bit disappointing, or left us wanting more.
Yeah. Addy was hurt a lot.
Addy was hurt. I liked what I saw from him in stretches.
He only had those 2 weeks where he was dominant.
Yeah. So
Taylor has a huge shot.
Yeah, there's just like potential there. I just don't think it was fully untapped yet.
No.
So next year they're another year older. Some of those guys, if all those guys are back, maybe they continue to be a big part of the core.
Yeah.
I loved what I saw from Colin Fitzgerald. It took it's a big step to go into the OHL, and I thought right away he was never intimidated.
He got better too.
He got way better. There was games near the end before he got injured where he was the best forward. He was using his size. He had a beautiful toe drag goal near the end of the year that was just like skill.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be motivated going into his NHL draft year. And I think he's motivated me in the hometown kid, and he doesn't want to lose, obviously. So, love to see that. I loved Jens Ula.
Yeah.
Gowan, like I said, I thought he was very steady back there. So
Teddy Bear Toss Gowan.
Teddy Bear Toss Gowan scoring the goal. So I liked what I saw from those guys.
Yeah.
It was certainly something to build off of.
Yeah.
And if we add in,
Even Parrish.
yeah,
Good year.
absolutely, Parrish, yeah, and another solid guy that I forgot to mention. Um, so I think that there's reason for optimism again that those guys could take a step forward and we can build around a core of younger players again. And we can take a step forward as long as those guys continue to grow.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic, but we'll build into the draft. Obviously, the good news, you finish last, not good news. You win the draft lottery, it is good news. So we will hopefully be adding a very dynamic player that can hopefully help us right away.
Fill the net.
Fill the net. Add that into those Colin Fitzgeralds and some of those scorers up front, and maybe we can turn this around. Much like what's the guy that went to Belchich? That went to Windsor.
Yeah.
Waslin had a great year. Maybe another player like that, another weapon up front would be fun to watch. So, in that upcoming draft, you have some other teams that do have a bunch of picks, so other teams to watch out for as well. Who do you got listed there?
Yeah.
Some teams with multiple picks in second round and stuff.
So we don't have a second or a third because we traded it. But we have Flint and Ottawa's second round picks. And we have Kingston and Windsor's third round picks. And then we have no fourth or fifth. But then we have a pick every other round after that. So that's not a bad position to be in because you have 5 picks in the top 3 rounds. So enough to build some kind of foundation with those picks.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have a high import pick. Because there'll be 1, 2, or 3 in the import draft.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have the Czech guy that didn't come over this year that's a forward that might come over.
Yeah.
So,
and apparently a very skilled forward.
So you have options that potentially you get an import that wants to come and a high OHL pick here and some high seconds, and maybe you got 4 or 3 decent players that you can build around with the core.
Absolutely.
But you don't want to put too much pressure on them. It's still a hard league to play in and learn. Whoever we get in the first round and first overall is going to be a good player.
Yep.
But let's not freak out if he has a little slow start. He'll get there. They all do. You've just got to give him some patience. Cornell was very much his first year was learning the game, and then by the end of his 3rd, 4th year, he was taking over games.
For sure.
So you just got to let them grow.
Yeah.
Give them good opportunities, play them with some good line mates, and just let them get their feet wet.
Yeah. Yeah. And he even, our guy we traded to Brantford for, he's lighting it up with 70 goals this year.
Yeah.
He wasn't having a huge amount of success in his rookie year.
Yeah.
He looked like a guy that would step it up.
Yeah.
Or looked like a guy that had potential. But he wasn't filling the net.
Yeah.
We had to make that trade again for Gavin Hayes and
White.
I can't remember his first name off the top of my head. Sorry.
Avery Hayes and Gavin.
Avery Hayes. Sorry, Gavin White.
Yeah.
Had my brain fart moment there. We had to give up a great player, and he's 70 goals this year.
Yeah.
So it does take a while to develop, but I think we can get us a solid player.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we have Turcotte from last year's U18 draft if he's ready to go. It looked like he had a really impressive year.
Yeah.
So maybe he's ready to go.
So I'm excited to see these guys come in. Absolutely. We do have a list of some names. We didn't have a ton of information to put this forward yet, but there is a list of names here. If we pronounce them wrong, apologies in advance, but just some names to keep an eye on. These are kind of names that are mentioned around the top of the draft, guys that Peterborough might be looking at. Again, last year I remember we kind of both had Waslin and
there's a defenseman,
Valentini
Nyman.
and Nyman.
But then he went to the U.S.
Yeah, USHL, and then they shocked us a bit by picking Fitzgerald, which worked out great. So we'll always leave the final say to the Brain Trust, but we got Charlie Murata, Keaton Arda, Cameron Warren, Yako Wisik, Peter Green, Brock Shitteroni, Shitteroni? Is that how you say that?
guess,
Cheateroni? If I said Shitteroni, I apologize. Kingston Harris, Caden McGregor, Tyler Lee, and Johnny McLaughlin.
Yeah.
So those are all guys. It looks like a lot of forwards.
Yeah, high forward draft.
High forward draft, which I think the Petes could always use.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic there.
Warren apparently stood out at the OHL Cup.
Cameron Warren.
So he might have their eye on him. He played for the Canadians, Toronto Junior Canadians. The Don Mills Flyers had a really good year, so they have a bunch of players on this list. But any player you get first overall is going to be a good player.
Absolutely.
Anyone you get in the top 10 is usually a good player.
For sure.
So pick who they believe is right. They develop players well, I believe the Petes do. And they'll give him an opportunity, and if he earns it, that's what Wilson does. If you earn it, he'll give you ice time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And get back to winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I love. Well, anyway, should we give our, thoughts on maybe our final 3 stars? We'll each pick 3 guys.
Yeah.
Each of us will do our 3 stars of the year. We'll say who impressed us the most. Biggest surprise of the year, and then we'll give maybe an overall grade for what we thought how the team finished and what we thought they could be, and then maybe where we see them next year.
Yeah.
So should we start with our 3 stars? Do you want to do the honors? Do you want me to go first?
Are you allowed to pick the same ones, or are you?
Yeah. You can repeat.
3 stars. For me, having a 20-goal season in his overage year, Mali's got to be one of the top 3.
Yep.
Without him, I fear how many goals he would have scored, or just the ability to come back. He really dragged them into the fight some games and got them into a bunch of... He had all those shorthanded goals, too. A great overager season for a guy that gives everything on the ice. So for me, he's one of my top 3 stars. Matejček.
Yep.
Can't ask more from him on the back end.
Absolutely.
There was part of the season where Cameron was down, Stroak was suspended, Kaiser was suspended, and he had to log huge minutes.
Yeah.
And he always played well, played his position. I think he was a huge pickup for them, and I think he did a great job.
Yep.
And then for me, it's got to be the goalies. It's got to be Bowen and Rye.
Yep.
They were spectacular this year. Save of the week, almost every week was one of them. Had it every week. Their ability to keep them in games this year was second to none.
Yeah.
Those would be my 3.
Yeah. I'm similar to you. All those guys are great. Like I said, I would throw. Jonathan Mali was one that jumped out to me. He's been a big part of this team for several years. The amount of times he scored shorthanded, led this team through what would have been a tough 2 seasons to be the leader, and really drove this team offensively. So I agree there. I go Colin Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I think he had a very solid rookie season. I think if he had not been injured near the end of the year, I think he would have been right up there near the top of rookie scorers. I'm expecting big things from him next year. I think he's ready to be a force in this league. I think he's got the size and the tools to do it, and I think he will. I think he's got the confidence as well.
Yeah.
And I love Matejček as well. I think I would have thrown him in there, but just to be different, I was really, really high on the end of Jens Ula.
Yeah.
Didn't know much about him. Made the team. Didn't really start out playing that much, and then he just won the...
Top 4.
Yeah, he won the coaches over, and you can see why. Smooth skating, physical, good shot. Like, I think he can... it's unfortunate his injury will probably keep him out till at least Christmas next year.
Yeah.
And then even then, he'll have to come back. His timing might be off. I feel for the kid because I think he can absolutely be a dynamo in this league.
Yeah.
A guy that every team would have to watch out for. That's how much potential and improvement I saw from this guy.
Yeah.
He was our best defenseman a lot of times down the stretch.
Yeah.
And to be doing that stuff, he turned 16 in the final month of the season. Like, to be doing it that young, very impressive. So I'd say those 3.
Would you say it's a fair comparison for him? I was thinking about this. So For me, he has the skill set, like the passing and scoring ability of a Krejci when he was a Pete,
Lucas Krajicek, yeah.
but he hits like Brian Young.
Yeah, he
Like
laid some guys out.
he's not dirty, but he
Yeah,
lines guys up
yeah,
and he just puts his shoulder down, and he had probably 3 of the 5 hardest hits.
yeah, yeah.
To
And
me, he's like a Brian Young hitter with a
yeah.
Lucas Krejci skill set.
And the thing is, like, I think it was surprising initially because we all saw him as kind of this fluid
Yeah,
skating, maybe more offensive guy.
yeah,
And I don't think people are going to be surprised
no,
anymore because he did it so
yeah.
regularly. I
He rocked
love,
Musty.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, just a good foundation. I do like those comparisons,
yeah,
and I really hope he's back sooner rather than later because I think he's a huge part of this team,
yeah,
and I think he can be a dynamo in this league for a couple of years.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's go on to who stood out for us. So you can either take it like who was your most impressive or who improved the most. You can kind of go any way you're thinking.
Yeah. There's so many.
Yeah.
Like, even though it was a tough season, Easton Rye shocked me.
Yep.
Not that I didn't think he was a good goalie, but his ability,
Just-
the workload he carried, and
Yeah.
his ability to stay consistent.
He was just such an unknown.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't his fault. He was
No.
log jammed behind Stützle and,
Yeah.
and Simpson
Yeah.
for a couple of years. Didn't get much time, and
No.
then he was kind of thrust into it.
Yeah.
And I think he vastly exceeded expectations. I am comfortable with him being a starter.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Yeah.
Like that's how good he was.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Yeah. I would put him, and then I thought Francis Parrish impressed me a lot.
Yep.
Just his willingness to go to the dirty areas. He got a bunch of points by just staying with it. He got moved up to like the top 6 by like halfway through the season. Was playing there regularly. Was getting on the power play.
Yep.
I think he's very much in the mold of a Page Faulkner type.
Yep.
But to me, he came to camp. He impressed. He made the team. He worked his tail off. He rarely got sat because I think the coaches knew they would get full value.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Who for you was the
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that Easton Rye. I'll admit I was a bit nervous. I didn't think he was super proven. I didn't know where that was going to go when Bowen went down, and he was. I thought he was awesome.
yeah
Eula, we've already
Yeah.
talked about him. Like he came,
Yeah.
he came on. I'm so excited to watch this guy play again.
Yeah.
I really feel for his injury,
Yeah.
but I think he is going to be a top defenseman around the league. I think that's his potential.
yeah
I don't know if I'm hyping him up too much, but I saw moments where I was just like blown away by this 15-year-old kid
Yeah.
that can do what he does already.
Yeah.
So those are the two that kind of jumped out to me.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald again, strong year. There's a lot
Yeah.
like you said, even though a disappointing year, there's
Yeah.
reason for optimism and always guys that stand out.
yeah
But overall, we can do letter grades if you want, or just a general statement. The end, obviously, you finished dead last.
Yeah.
I thought this was a playoff team
yeah
at the start of the year.
both did.
Yeah, I thought maybe bottom half of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
But at least a playoff team.
I saw them 6 to 8.
Yeah, and so to finish dead last is disappointing. I think there were issues that need to be addressed. I didn't think their second year core dominated enough.
Yeah.
I think there's still room to grow,
Yeah.
but I don't think they dominated enough to get them into that playoff spot. I think they gave up too many goals, didn't score enough. I think their power play and their penalty kill special teams needs work. So I was disappointed. I don't know. I saw some promising players. I'm an optimist, but I struggle to give this like more than like a C
Yeah.
at the highest. Like I maybe even like a C minus year, just because in a league where you only have 5 years before players move on,
Yeah.
your rebuilds can't take
No.
2-3 years.
No.
And so to take a step back in the standings
Yeah.
in year 2 is disappointing, and it hurts. And yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I saw it. Again, optimistic. I love going to the games, supporting the boys. I'm not bailing on them whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I think I would have ideally seen them into a playoff spot, getting their feet wet,
Yeah.
and then going from there. And to miss the playoffs 2 years in a row does hurt.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. I wouldn't be, like you said, I had not high expectations, but my expectations weren't met by the team in terms of where I thought they should be.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we would be better than Ottawa. I thought we'd be better than North Bay because they'd had winning years and they'd have to reload.
Yep.
And some of the teams in the West that I thought we should beat up on, like Owen Sound and Guelph, we couldn't beat them. Some really ugly losses, which happen a year, but too many of them. They had some really bad ones against, like we mentioned, against the Sioux. They had some bad ones against Erie. Their home opener, they lost 7-2 to Kingston. Just getting kind of lit up on your home ice a little bit too much this year for my liking.
Mm-hmm.
So that hurt a little bit. For me, though, is just there's some, and I don't want to be negative about players, but like negative 37 as a second year player as a forward
Yeah.
is horrendous,
Yeah.
regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the name because it's not important. That's not what we're here to bash.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I don't know what happened, but I really thought McCallum would do a whole lot more this year.
I thought he took
I
a little
thought-
bit of a step back
I
as
thought
well. Yeah.
this is like he was
Yeah.
suspended a lot. I
Yeah.
thought a lot of the times the refs had his number because he's been suspended, so that's not his fault.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he might have got 10 goals, but it was just 10 goals.
Yeah.
It was just over. And
After leading the team the year
Yeah.
before.
I thought he would be easily a shoe-in for 20 to 30 goals
Yeah.
based on how he dominated at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And for me, it was hard to watch and be like, I know it's there.
Yeah.
And then you'd see a glimpse of it for a game, and he would be like, oh, he had 3 points tonight. He was the difference maker. And then he just wouldn't be there
Yeah,
consistently enough.
Or like you said, he'd be out of the lineup
Yeah.
again because he
Yeah.
was either hurt or suspended, and
Yeah.
it's hard to catch momentum when you're
Yeah.
doing that.
And I love him. I love having him on our team.
Yeah,
I'm hoping he turns into a Stonehouse.
yeah,
That's my ultimate
Mm-hmm.
hope for him, is that he comes back next year, plays like Stonehouse,
yeah,
like a Bulldog, which he already does.
yeah,
Finds his scoring touch, because I think if you lose your scoring touch, you lose confidence. It's hard to get it back.
yeah,
So I'd love to see him just have a huge start to the season next year, just carry that throughout the year, because I think he can be a 20 to 30 goal scorer.
absolutely.
And that for me was hard to see, just the drop off of him. And I think I thought Taylor would be a shoot-in for 20 goals.
Mm-hmm.
He has a huge shot,
Yeah,
tons of ice time.
incredibly streaky.
Yeah, and
There's games where he was scoring a lot.
and there was that stretch where he was scoring every game.
Yeah.
That's what I think he is at his best.
Yeah,
And I think he can be, and I'm excited to see him become more consistent, because if you have that weapon, you can do a lot. So for me, it was just there's some forward guys that I was counting on to carry the load,
yep,
and I think the defense felt they had to carry the load because the forwards weren't getting it done, which led to a lot of odd man rushes, shorthanded goals, breakdowns in your defensive end, which made Bowen and Rye tired, which led to third period late goals, which led to them being outscored in the third period.
Yeah.
There's your trend right there.
yep,
I don't know if that's how you read it, but that
No, I
to me
agree.
is what happened.
yep,
And this might be bold, but the Petes have to make the playoffs next year.
yep,
They have to.
yeah,
It's not like if they don't,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anyone on the coaching staff should be fired, because I think the coaching staff is great, but the players need to come into next year and be pissed off and say, we're making the playoffs this year, even if it's a low seed. Let's
Yep.
get some experience. Let's get in there.
yep,
Let's turn this around, because they have the guys that can do it.
absolutely.
We've seen what Young can be at his best. We've seen what Taylor can be at his best. We've seen what McCallum can be. We've seen Fitzgerald at his best. You have a good core. Now it's just, let's put it together and let's hit the ground running.
Yep, absolutely. You can't miss the playoffs 3 years in a row.
no.
Like I said, in a league where
Four
your
teams
guys,
don't make it.
yeah, where 4 teams don't make it, and a lot of your guys last 4 years. The odd one ends up 5 if they're an overager. You can't be missing 3 out of 5. It can't happen.
No.
So we need to take a step forward into a playoff position. I'm sure the coaches are motivated, the guys are motivated. So we will be there supporting them, and I hope it is a step forward and get back to those winning ways, because I can still remember 2 years ago how fun it was riding that wave of momentum once we caught our stride into the playoffs, and just taking out London in that finals was one of the best feelings ever.
Yeah, and there were some great moments this season. Like as a Pete's fan, there's always something good to be see.
Yeah.
The win against Kitchener on Family Day was fantastic.
Yep.
You were at that game. It
Yeah.
was a great comeback win. They had some great wins against Ottawa at the end of the year.
Yep.
Some great overtime goals. Some great shootout wins.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to like, even in a season when you lose. And I think that's where we're coming from with the disappointment, is you can see that kind of core and you can see the skill that's there, and it just didn't come together at any one point this season.
Yeah.
And there were spurts where you saw it and you're like, we're better than the 6th place team in the East.
Yeah.
We can beat Kingston. We
Yeah.
can beat Oshawa. We
Yeah.
can beat Brampton.
Yeah.
We can beat these teams.
Yeah.
We
And
can
you
beat
just
Barrie. We can beat Niagara.
it wasn't
And then-
consistent enough for
and you-
long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
the fact that they were 15 games to start the season with no wins, and then got themselves within 3 points of a playoff spot before they had that drop off,
Yeah.
is testament to the skill that's on this team. They got themselves from like 3 points in their first 15 games all the way to 3 points out of a playoff spot with 2 games against Ottawa.
Yeah.
That's impressive for a team that could have just mailed it in because they were so far back.
Absolutely.
Let's not miss that part of the picture as Pete's fans.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Pete's not in the playoffs. There are a number of teams in the playoffs. Do you have your eye on any particular team from the East or West that you're like, I really want them to win? Who are you rooting for?
I don't want this particular team to win. I'm cheering for players.
Yeah.
So I'm cheering for Smith, McCoy,
Yeah.
Lardis.
Yeah.
I think Kingston will win the East.
Yeah.
They're deep.
Yeah.
They can play so many different ways. They're manhandling the Wolves right now. But yeah, I just want to see the former Petes do well. But I
Fair
think
enough.
Kingston will win. And I just want to see somebody take London out. That's all I
Absolutely.
want.
That's
is
the
just
best.
someone to hammer London.
Yeah.
Won't be the first round because they're destroying Owen Sound.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping Windsor or Kitchener
Yeah.
can just give them a series.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I agree with you. Former Pete's, I'm really cheering for Lardis. I know they've kind of become our rivals with that bench clearing brawl a couple years ago, or last year rather, and like every game's been rough, but I love it. Even Peterborough boys like Porter Martone, I think like Brampton and Brantford are kind of who I'm rooting for in the East, and then in the West, it's anyone but London. You
Yeah.
said it best.
Yeah.
I like watching London lose as much as I like watching the Petes win.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, any final thoughts for you?
No, it's been fun doing the show. I've enjoyed
Absolutely.
it, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I think, like we said, the reason we're too busy. We don't have the time to give you a thorough analysis, and we don't want to be a show where we look at a game sheet and come and sit here and tell you what you can already read or
Yeah.
see. We want to be able to watch the games and go back and rewatch if we need to, and give you analysis of being there in person or thoroughly reviewed. And we just don't have the time to do that, but we'll decide what we can do. Maybe it's a post, maybe it's nothing, or if we're going to come back, but we'll keep you updated. But in the meantime, we've enjoyed covering this team, and we'll always be diehard Pete's fans. And that's all I can say about that.
For sure, I agree. Yeah, thanks for all of you guys that did tune in. We know we had a number of people that kind of tuned in weekly. Thanks for your support. Hopefully we gave you something interesting to listen to. Thanks to the guests we did have on, Tim Coles, Pete Dalladay. We had former general manager Jeff Toohey. We had Brent Tully, and we had Chris Hartle. So thanks for those guys for giving up some time to talk to the show. Thanks to you, Matt. I know you did a lot of your driving force behind a lot of the research that goes into the show and a lot of the stats, and the show wouldn't happen without you. So thanks again. It's been a blast these past couple seasons having the show, and I'll post it to the usual spots. And like we said, we'll see where this goes, whether we continue to post on our website. And whether this is the end, or whether we're back in a bit. In the meantime, there's another Pete's podcast. I think it's just called the Pete's Pod. Some great stuff coming out from them. So support those guys. Continue to support the Peets. We will definitely still be supporting the Peets. We are diehard fans for life. And yeah, it's been a blast. So
Yeah.
cheers again. And one final, as always,
Go
go
Pete's
Peets, go!